You've watched them all day, slow, soft, gentle, walking instead of hopping, cooing from the fence, sitting in the yard like they have nowhere important to be and all the time in the world to get there. And then the light changes. The air drops a few degrees. The shadows under the trees stretch long, and within minutes, they're gone. Not to the feeder, not to the fence, just gone. You assume they went to sleep somewhere, found a branch, closed their eyes. Simple. What actually happens to your mourning doves between sunset and sunrise is nothing like that. That 120-gram bird, lighter than a baseball, is about to spend the next 12 hours doing something that should not be possible. Surviving freezing temperatures with almost no fat reserves. Navigating total darkness at 55 miles per hour if a predator appears. Running a thermal management system so precise it adjusts itself thousands of times before you wake up. And doing all of it in a tree above your head that you have walked under every day without once looking up. Tonight, we go find them. Welcome to Bird Mind Theory. The first thing your mourning doves do after sunset surprises almost everyone who loves them. They stop being individuals. During the day, mourning doves maintain careful spacing from each other. Watch them at a feeder. There's always distance. They land apart. They feed apart. They fly apart. The spacing looks almost deliberate, like politeness. The moment darkness comes, that spacing disappears completely. Mourning doves are communal roosters. After sunset, scattered individuals converge on specific trees, dense evergreens mostly, cedars, junipers, arborvitae, and pack together tightly. 10 birds, 15, sometimes 20 or more, pressing their bodies against each other in the same branches night after night. The reason is physics. A mourning dove weighs 120 grams. At that size, the surface area to volume ratio is brutal. The bird loses heat faster than almost any mammal of comparable weight. Alone on a branch on a cold night, the math doesn't work. Fat reserves run out before morning. The bird doesn't survive. But packed together, something changes. Communal roosting can reduce individual energy expenditure by 20 to 30% compared to roosting alone. Small birds that huddle together reduce heat loss significantly, allowing them to endure temperatures that would be fatal if faced alone. Bodies share warmth. The group becomes a single thermal unit, each bird contributing heat, each bird drawing from the collective. And they return to the same trees, the same branches, the same spots. Researchers have documented that mourning doves reuse identical roost locations with striking consistency across weeks and months, as long as the site remains safe. There may be a specific tree near your house that has quietly held sleeping doves every single night for years. You have walked under it. You have probably raked leaves beneath it. You have never once looked up at the right moment to see what was there. Here is the part that changes everything about how you see a resting dove. They are not sleeping, not the way you sleep. A mourning dove at rest in its roost is making continuous, microscopic adjustments all night long. One shoulder feather shifts, contour feathers across the chest reposition. The neck feathers loosen slightly, then tighten again. This is not restlessness. This is active thermal management. A bird's insulation is not the feather itself. It's the air trapped between the feathers. That trapped air layer is what keeps the bird's core temperature stable against freezing night air. But that air layer shifts as temperature drops, as wind changes, as moisture increases. So the bird adjusts. Constantly. The feathers move in response to conditions the bird is monitoring while apparently doing nothing at all. When temperatures drop, doves use tiny muscles to fluff their feathers, trapping a layer of air close to the body which acts as insulation to retain heat. But it goes further than simple fluffing. Mourning doves can also practice controlled hypothermia, deliberately lowering their core body temperature slightly overnight to reduce the rate of heat loss and extend their fat reserves through the coldest hours before dawn. Not enough to become sluggish, not enough to slow their reflexes, just enough to make the math work until sunrise. And then there are the feet. Doves periodically tuck one foot up into their belly feathers while balancing on the other, then switch back. Feet and legs are poorly insulated compared to the body. They lose heat rapidly in cold air. A countercurrent heat exchange system in the legs allows the extremities to cool down without lowering core body temperature. But tucking one foot at a time into the warm feathers reduces that loss further still, performed with almost mechanical repetition through the night, in the dark, while balancing on a branch. The bird you think of as peaceful and slow is running a survival system of extraordinary precision all night long, every single night, above your head. Here is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Your mourning doves never fully lose consciousness at night. Scientists call it unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, the ability to rest one half of the brain while the other half maintains awareness. And while the degree to which mourning doves use this system is still being studied, what is documented is that prey birds in high predation environments maintain significant levels of alertness even during their deepest rest. Mourning doves are prey animals almost continuously. From above, hawks, owls, falcons. From below, raccoons, foxes, cats. At first light, when the dove is heaviest with a full crop of seeds and its flight is briefly slower, sharp-shinned hawks time their hunts to that exact window. So the dove never fully lets go. Sleeping on the end of a tree branch allows birds to feel vibrations of approaching enemies, while thick foliage keeps owls from easy access. One bird shifts position, and others respond immediately. A branch snaps somewhere below the canopy, and heads rise before the sound has finished traveling. A shadow crosses overhead and bodies tense before any conscious decision has been made. The entire roosting group functions as a single distributed alarm network, each bird partially awake, monitoring a slightly different direction, pooling their awareness into a collective system that is harder to surprise than any individual bird sleeping alone could ever be. And when something does break through that system, when a predator gets close enough to trigger real alarm, what happens next is one of the most extraordinary things your quiet backyard dove is capable. Most people have heard it at least once. A sudden violent explosion of wings from somewhere in the dark. Sharp, startling, gone before you fully register what happened. That sound is not an accident. When a mourning dove launches into emergency flight, specialized feathers on the wings, the outermost primary feathers, are shaped in a way that creates a sharp, piercing whistle automatically at full takeoff speed. For decades, researchers assumed this whistle was simply a byproduct of fast flight. A noise, not a signal. More recent research has challenged that assumption. The wing whistle appears to function as a genuine alarm, mechanical rather than vocal, requiring no learning, no translation, no delay. The moment one dove erupts from the roost in darkness, every other dove within earshot receives the signal, not as a sound to interpret, as an instruction to move. One hidden roost erupts. The sound carries to another roost nearby. That roost erupts. Within seconds, a chain of alarm has traveled through the neighborhood, invisible in the darkness, passing overhead while the houses below stay silent and sleeping. On colder mornings, doves leave the roost later relative to sunrise, and on evenings when temperatures drop, they return to the roost later as well. Every departure and arrival timed with precision to the temperature, the wind, the light level, the predator activity in the area. That burst of wings you've heard from your yard at midnight, that was not a random disturbance. That was an ancient emergency system activating, refined across thousands of generations of surviving the dark. Here is the final piece. And it reframes every morning you've ever watched mourning doves from your window. By the time you wake up, your doves have already been awake for an hour, possibly more. Doves leave the roost later on cloudy mornings and on colder mornings, meaning their departure timing is not fixed. It is calculated. Every morning, the flock reads the light level, the temperature, the wind, the cloud cover, and adjusts their emergence accordingly. On clear, cold mornings, they move early. The thin blue light before sunrise gives just enough visibility to navigate and begin feeding, while the sharpest daytime predators, Cooper's hawks, sharp-shinned hawks, are still less active. On heavy overcast mornings, they wait longer. The conditions don't yet favor the risk. By the time you pour your first coffee and look out the window, what you're seeing is not the beginning of a mourning dove's day. You are seeing a bird that has already survived a 12-hour thermal management operation, maintained partial consciousness through the coldest hours, processed multiple alarm signals from the flock, and made a calculated decision about when conditions were safe enough to emerge. The slow, calm bird on your fence post has already done more careful work this morning than most people do before noon. So here's what is actually happening every night in your yard. As the light fades, your mourning doves converge on the same trees they have used before, pressing together into communal groups that share warmth and awareness through the dark. Through the night, they run a continuous thermal management system, adjusting feathers, tucking feet, lowering core temperature just enough to stretch their fat reserves until dawn. They never fully sleep. The group stays partially aware, networked through branches, pooling their senses into something more reliable than any individual bird could manage alone. And if something breaks through, the wing whistle travels through the neighborhood in seconds, a mechanical alarm that requires no translation and allows no delay. And then, an hour before you wake up, they are already reading the light, already calculating, already deciding whether this morning is safe enough to begin. The bird you think of as slow, as gentle, as peaceful, has been running an operation of extraordinary precision all night long, in the dark, above your head. In a tree you have walked under 100 times without once looking up. The next time you see a mourning dove sitting quietly on your fence in the morning, remember what it just survived. That's not laziness you're looking at. That's experience. If this changed how you see the mourning doves in your yard, subscribe right now, because every single week on this channel we go this deep into the secret lives of the birds outside your window. Tell me in the comments, have you ever heard mourning doves suddenly explode into flight in the dark? Or found a hidden roost near your house you never noticed before? I read every single one, and share this with someone who thinks mourning doves are just ordinary backyard birds, because after this video, they will never be ordinary again.